Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to return to the discussion of attack surface management. As we know, our sophisticated adversaries like Russia and China are constantly probing our nation's federal, state, and local critical infrastructure to try to identify vulnerabilities. And it's very important that we be able, our network defenders must be able to identify where those vulnerabilities are before they are exploited by those adversaries. So they need to be able to view that network attack surface through the eyes of the adversary and continuously evolve to be prepared to defend those internet-facing assets. As we've discussed today, Congress invested in an attack surface management program at CISA so that CISA can provide federal and non-federal stakeholders visibility into those vulnerabilities. And I'd like to hear an update from you about how that is working. We're hearing good things back, but we'd like to know more about how that's working, where you see it going from here, how we can continue to expand that work.
Yes, ma'am. It's a great question. So, as you noted, there are going to be really two game-changing advances as we fully deploy our attack surface management capability. The first is getting better visibility into the assets across all of the entities whom we want to support, whether federal or non-federal. And the second is to increase the number of organizations participating in our visibility programs by several multiples. And so at this point, over the past year, we did a series of technology evaluations. We have obligated the resources that Congress so helpfully provided, and we are now at the point where we are rolling out this capability with the full rollout to be completed by the end of this calendar year. I will already say that the visibility that we gain through this capability has proven invaluable in many of the recent significant vulnerabilities that we've seen reported in the cybersecurity space. Already, our ability to understand prevalence and drive reduction has been absolutely critical. And so we think this is going to be a tremendous value both for our federal partners and for partners across the country.
And then going back to the chairman earlier talked about the subject, he asked questions about the subject of shared services. There too, I know this is a really important concept. It allows us to provide more services while also saving money because of those efficiencies. Is CISA at this point equipped from an administrative and a resource perspective to grow its shared services offerings for agencies? And second to that, do you envision a world where CISA might be actually taking on the security responsibilities for some of the smaller agencies?
Yes, ma'am. We have provided a series of extraordinarily impactful shared services across federal agencies. I mentioned protective DNS and vulnerability disclosure as being only two examples. We also take a disciplined approach to thinking through which security capabilities are appropriate for CISA to provide. Do they offer cost savings? Are they filling a gap that agencies aren't providing at scale? Is there benefit in CISA having some centralized visibility into the risks? I think vulnerability disclosure platforms is a great example where we are providing a service that is required by a binding operational directive, and CISA having visibility into the vulnerabilities that are being identified in federal websites then lets us drive broader improvements at scale. And so where we identify additional services that can be provided that meet those criteria, we absolutely have the authorities to do so and look forward to working with Congress to ensure that the resources match. To your second question, Congresswoman, it's a fantastic question. We know today that there are many agencies who are so small that they're equivalently small and medium businesses for their IT infrastructure and security function. Those are agencies that really need significant help. And so we are leading forward with those agencies. For example, there's a designated CDM group where we provide almost CDM as a service with a cloud-based dashboard to help those agencies. But that certainly is a group that we are really focused on working with OMB and ONCD to understand where can we go next to make sure that as those agencies do provide critical functions, we can support them in their security journey.
And then the last thing, I'd like to go back to the topic of agency participation and agencies' voluntary participation, compliance, cooperation with CISA. I know that has been a challenge, and you all have been working very hard to bring them in and get them to provide the information and take the steps that CISA is recommending. What other things do you think you can do to be overcoming that challenge? And then, Mr. DeRusha, I'll also take that one to you on what OMB's role can be in ensuring that agencies cooperate with CISA and its efforts.
I would really say it's a new day in that area. I think Congress has provided really impactful authorities to help CISA, for example, conduct threat hunting without prior authorization. Executive Order 14028 required agencies to enter into memoranda of agreement with us to provide granular data through CDM, and then certainly funding from Congress that enabled us to deploy these EDR tools also really helped. But most importantly, we are now really showing reciprocal value to agencies, which ultimately is what matters most. And so, just this morning, actually, Chris and I spoke at a session with 30-some federal CISOs, including the CISOs from every large agency. And the goal was really to embark on a shared planning process together for fiscal 24 so that we are not imposing burdens on agencies. We are working together on a shared journey. And we think that is going to be the most important piece here. I would just add that a key part of that is, of course, CISA's funding profile and making sure that as we are offering services, those services are sustained. The last thing we want to do is get to a point where we have reasonable confidence in visibility and security measures and then have that be pulled back or degraded in a way that our adversaries, of course, will exploit.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm out of time. I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back.